girl named Mia DM'd me and she said that her ex-boyfriend was in a cult and he ended up convincing her to join. So this is spooky, scary story time. This is Mia's story. Mia is not her real name. She wanted to be anonymous, but she said this is the first time she's telling this story because she's now just beginning to process everything that happened. And if this is true, this is crazy. So Mia is living a little outside of Los Angeles and she is on a dating app. And in 2021, she matched with a guy named Mark. And Mark seemed to be very well traveled. He had photos all over the world. He was very articulate. He was quoting books. And he seemed very deep. They were having great conversations on the app and he wasn't giving off any creepy or like F-boy vibes like so many of the other guys she talked to. So she was immediately into him. She said that a lot of the other guys on the app in her area just wanted to hook up and she wasn't into that. So talking to Mark was really refreshing and they talked on the app for 2 weeks when Mia was actually the one that suggested they finally meet up. So Mark suggests this little coffee shop in the downtown area of where they lived and she goes to meet him. When she gets there, he's already there sitting at a table. He sees her walk in, he gets up, walks over to her and he's like, what do you want to drink? He buys her coffee. She said she was immediately super attracted to him. He was really tall. He had dark hair, blue eyes, and she said she has nothing against short kings, but she was just pleasantly surprised at how tall and attractive he was. So they go back to the table, they're drinking their little drinky drinks, and the next thing she knows, it's been 3 hours, and they're having these great deep conversations. He's asking her all kinds of questions about herself, and they're really focused on the idea of wanting to be the best versions of themselves at this point in both of their lives. There is a connection. They are feeling each other fully. So Mark's like, oh my gosh, this has been great. I would love to see you again, but I have to get going. And she's like, yeah, I would love to see you too. And he's like, you know what, I don't really do this on a first date usually, but would you be interested in meeting my community? And Mia said that he had referenced his community a few times in their conversation, but he never really elaborated. So she was thinking it was like a religious or like a friend group or maybe even like a meditation group, but she didn't really know. And she was like, well, what's your community? And he was like, well, basically it's just a group of like-minded individuals that want to transcend the chains of everyday life and unlock our full potential. And Mia's like, that sounds awesome. I would really like to get to know more people that are on this path of being better with me, but like what exactly do you do? And he's like, well, we have certain rituals. So for example, if you were to be brought into the community, the first thing we would do is blindfold you for 24 hours and everyone in the community takes care of you basically for 24 hours. And that's a way for you to develop complete trust in the community and know that you can rely on them for anything. And she's like, that seems intense. And he was like, well, there's other things that we do too. Like, so then we have this thing called the merging and basically everyone gets together and we reveal something deep, like a deep secret about ourselves. And that way we know that we're taking our masks off that we wear in everyday life around each other and we can really see who everybody is without judgment. He tells her about another ritual they do, which takes place every few months. They all get together and everyone sacrifices something that's important to them. It can be something from the present or the past, but basically it's a way to strip away the dependence that they have on the material world. And Mia's like kind of into it, honestly. She's like, I've never really heard about this before. Like, why don't I just think about it? And he's like, you know what? Think about it. No pressure. If you want to do it, just let me know and you can come to one of our meetings. She's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it seems intense, like I said. And he's like, if you want to come, how about this? The first time you come, you don't even have to participate. You can just observe and see if it's something that you're into. And she's like, okay, I'll think about it. So she goes home that night. She tells her best friend about her date. And she's like, yeah, I really like him. Like, he's so hot. And her best friend's like, get it, like, I'm glad you found somebody. And then she's like, yeah, but then he's like into this weird like community thing. And her best friend's like immediately like, nope, delete, block, like, we're done with him. He's a weirdo. And Mia's like, I don't know, I'm just gonna like see how it goes. Like, I've really never had this kind of connection with someone. And her best friend's like, okay, you're crazy, but like whatever. So the next day she doesn't hear from Mark at all. So she decides she's gonna text him and she says, hey, I was thinking about it. Like, I think I'm interested in your community. I would like to know more. And he was like, perfect. Like, I will reserve you a spot at our next meeting. It's tomorrow. Do you wanna go? And she's like, sure. So he sends her the address. She takes an Uber to the address. It's a beautiful, huge white house in Hollywood Hills. And she said she doesn't know who lived there, but like whatever they did, they must have been wildly successful. So she knocks at the door and an older woman with gray hair and a hood and a robe answers the door. And she's like, oh, Mia, like, you're Mark's friend. Like, come on in. We've been waiting for you. So Mia feels welcomed and she walks in and she doesn't see Mark, but she sees about 8 or 9 other people all in like these same hooded robes. And she follows the woman to the kitchen and there's an island in the kitchen and it has all kinds of snacks like charcuterie boards, cheeses, wines, but then there's also bones and feathers and like little tufts of fur. And she just felt that that was a little odd, but she was just like, okay, like rich people have weird taste in art. And everyone's talking amongst themselves and she doesn't see Mark anywhere. So she's like sort of mingling, like, and she pulls out her phone and she texts him. She's like, hey, where are you? He's like, oh, I'll be down in a second. And then the older woman who answered the door comes to the center of the kitchen and she's like, shall we begin? And she dims the lights and lights a few candles and the rest of the people gather in a circle, like around this kitchen island. And there's a wood cutting board with nothing on it in the middle of the island. So the older woman starts chanting this hymn, but it's not in English. Mia said it was in, she thinks Latin. And they're all chanting in unison. And she's like, this is weird. And Mark comes up behind her and he whispers in her ear, he's like, don't be nervous. Like, this is just part of the ritual. So Mia's just watching. They chant for a few minutes and then the old woman stops and they all stop. And she's like, we're here today to welcome one of our own. And they all turn and look at Mia. And she goes, are you ready to become one with the community? And Mia's like, actually, no, I'm just here to observe. Like, I don't really want a part of this today. Like, I just kind of wanted to see what you guys are up to. She said she was trying to be respectful, but she was like very nervous and put on the spot and she didn't know what to say. He tells her not to worry, that this is just guiding her into the next phase of it. And the older woman can sense Mia's nervousness. So she said, it's okay, you're not ready. Is anyone else here willing to step in for Mia until she's ready? And Mark says, I will. So Mark walks toward the old woman and she pulls something wrapped in black fabric out of the pocket of her robe and she hands it to Mark. And she watches Mark unwrap this object, and I can't say what it is because it's TikTok, but it's a pointy object that people use in kitchens to chop up food. And she said it had a long wooden handle and there were strange carvings in the wood, but she couldn't read what it said. Mark takes the object and he looks at her and he says, don't be nervous. This is normal. And he takes it, the pointy object, and does this into his hand. And Mia gasps because she's like, what is going on? And nobody else flinches or moves. Like, they're all just acting like this is the most normal thing in the world. And Mark steps forward and he takes his hand that now has a cut and he puts it directly on the wood cutting board. And all of the liquid that's coming out is absorbed into the cutting board. And everybody's just watching. They're watching him. And then after everything is absorbed, they look at her. And the old woman says, do you want to join? And Mia's like, no, I don't. And she steps forward and hands her the pointy object. And Mia takes it and she doesn't know what to do. She's like shaking. So she hands it to Mark and she's like, I think I made a mistake coming here. I don't feel right. And the older woman's like, it's okay. We knew you weren't ready. You go wait outside on the porch and you can go home when this is over. He'll take you home. So she goes out to the porch. She's texting furiously her best friend. She's like, you will not believe what's going on. Her best friend is like, leave like right now. Do you want me to come and like send an Uber? Like, I will come and get you in an Uber. Like, you need to get out of there. And she's like, well, honestly, like I didn't feel threatened. Nothing really bad happened. Like, he's just a little weird. And her best friend's like, okay, I told you you're crazy. Like, send me your location. So she does. But pretty soon Mark comes outside. He's like, I know that was a lot. I'll take you home. So he's driving her home, and on the way home, she basically just tells him straight up. She's like, I really like you. I really feel a connection, but I don't know what's going on with you. Like, why are you doing these things? And he was like, these are just things that you won't understand until you're part of the community. But I promise you, if you want to join and get deeper into this, you will understand everything that we do. But again, he's like, no pressure. I would love to keep seeing you, even if you don't want to be part of this. But just think about it, okay? He essentially says that the only way, though, that he can feel like they have a true, meaningful connection is if she's also part of this community. So she's like, okay, I'll think about it. So she goes home, sleeps on it, doesn't hear from him again. The next night, she's having a glass of wine. She's kind of freaking out because he has not texted her. She's going to text him. And she says, I've been thinking a lot about what you said. I think I want to get deeper into this and learn more about your... Sends her a text back immediately. And he's like, I'm so glad you decided that you want to get deeper into this. Like, tomorrow night, there's another ritual. And this time, if you want to stay for the full thing. She goes back to the same house with Mark this time, and he is telling her, I'm so happy you decided that you wanted to join this. Like, I can't wait to explore this further with you. And they go in, and the same older woman answers the door, and they all gather, and there is a bowl, and it's like this copper color. And she tells Mia in front of the whole group how glad she is that she's committing, and she smears Mia with this liquid all over her face and arms in these like intricate patterns. And Mia said that she felt cold, like the liquid was cold. It wasn't water. And after she covers her in this liquid, she leads her to a black mirror and she says, this is where you're going to uncover the truth about who you really are. Mia was part of this cult for 2 years, and there are so many details to this story. It's crazy. If you guys want more of the examples she gave me about what they did, I will gladly make another follow-up video with this. But she said that Mark is on this app, which is why she wanted to be anonymous. And she said she also wanted to warn other women about potentially joining groups or communities that you don't know what they're doing. Because she said that she still does not feel like herself since dating him. They just broke up after 3 years, 2 months ago. So she is like just now beginning to process everything that she went through. Keep sending me these stories and I will keep posting them and adding to them this playlist.